everybody. It's the Hoops Talk.
Hoop, there it is.
We are already fired up.
I'm sweating.
I'm already sweaty. I've already ranted 3 times before we even started recording.
Like soapbox TED Talks.
Karen already informed us she's going to go off at some point in this podcast.
Oh, man.
I'm a drip sweat. I'm in my WNBA sweater that I just got in the mail, and I've got 3 lights on me.
It's 90 degrees outside.
Oh my God. We're so ill prepared for this heat, this virus, just like everything. I'm exhausted. I'm so over it. So
over it.
So let's check in with everybody here in the podcast.
Okay.
I'm over it. I'm not over the podcast. I love the podcast. I love what we're doing. By the way, you're listening to the Hoops Talk, if you didn't know. But I'm just over it. I'm so over it. I don't even know. Like, I showered today angrily, and I'm like, why am I doing these things? Because no one cares, and I'm not going outside.
Oh, yeah. I woke up at 5, sat in bed for 3 hours on the phone getting mad at Twitter, and then fell asleep and woke up again at noon. I don't give a fuck.
Everybody's sleep schedules are out of whack.
Kendall, how are you doing?
I'm in Utah now.
Okay.
Ooh, what's the weather like?
It's actually nice. It's warm, but it's not like Utah hot, where it's like you're dying. So it's pretty nice. We had dinner outside last night.
Oh.
But yeah, it's nice to be around people.
I bet.
I was solo quarantining for like 45 days and losing my mind, and my mom was like, how about you come with us? So you don't do something to yourself.
Good for you.
That was nice of her. Say hi to Rudy Gobert for us.
Ugh, no.
Oh God.
From a distance.
Yep.
Don't let him touch your mics for the podcast.
No, he can't.
Wipe it down.
Keep it away. Keep him away. Keep him away.
Keep him away.
Well, I think we're all we're hitting a mark.
Mm-hmm.
Hitting a wall.
We're hitting a wall. We're hitting a mark.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I will say that I really appreciate this podcast. I really appreciate you ladies on this podcast.
For sure.
We appreciate everybody that comes on as a guest, and we appreciate everybody that's listening. So thank you all so much. So with that, I'll segment into our updates and house cleaning as we normally do.
Sweet.
Here we go. Okay, so as you all know, we want you to leave us a review. I'm not going to talk about the prize pack today.
I was going to ask you not to.
I'm not going to talk about the prize pack, but we still want your reviews.
We're clearly just done.
Like, NBA season suspended, prize pack suspended.
We're over that.
We don't have the strength for the prize pack today. So we still want your reviews. We still want you to subscribe. We still want you to like. You can do this all on Apple Podcasts. You can hear us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the places that you get your podcast at. You can also follow us on our social channels. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The Hoops Talking, and we're on TikTok at The Hoops Talk Podcast, which is run by our Hoops Talk intern. So go and check out what we're doing there. And then we're also on YouTube. So check out our YouTube channel where you get to see our backgrounds and our faces and our hair that's growing out terribly.
Yeah.
Talking about myself.
Quarantine hair.
Our mustaches and our beards.
I'm sure you'll be able to see the progression as we continue to just, go back
hope
to the
has
earth.
left our eyes.
Bags.
We got bags under it. We got bangs now. So
yeah, exactly. Just a total metamorphosis, if you will.
Or experimental bangs.
Yeah, get to see it all go down at the YouTube channel if you choose. So that's all of our house cleaning and updates. Unless you guys have anything you want to add to this little segment. If not, we can move on to our Women Crush Wednesday segment. We have a fabulous guest, super excited. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to bring her on. We're ready. Bring her on.
Ready.
Hold on.
We ready?
We're ready.
All right.
Jasmine, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, ladies, how y'all doing?
Good. Thank you so much for taking time to come and be on the show. And I know we have been just crushing and loving your Twitter account.
Yes.
For real.
Shannon.
Thank you
Butter,
so
baby.
much.
we love, I know you're on Instagram too.
Okay.
I know you're on Instagram, but the Twitter is where we found you and where we fell in love with you. We had to start following you. And when we saw that you were doing some other things, I know you and I started to DM, and figure out how can we talk to you? How can we have you on the podcast? So it's a privilege and a thrill and an honor to have you. So thank you for making the time.
Thank you all for encouraging my BS. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're talking into the oblivion or whatever, and it's just like, hey, you know what? If y'all keep encouraging and liking this, we're gonna keep going with it.
Yeah. Call us Oblivion.
No, we love it. We love it. And Jasmine, I know when you and I were emailing back and forth, you call yourself, or maybe someone dubbed you, a women's sports culturalist.
Ooh,
I like it.
Yes.
I like it. Can you please give our audience some more context? Because I went through your website and I looked at your portfolio and I was like, hot damn. You've been writing, you've been doing this thing for some time now. You've got some great stories out there that I know I've read. And so tell us, how did you come up with the Women Sports Culturist title? What does that mean to you? A little bit of context on your career.
Well, honestly, it started, we're going back from my San Antonio days. I was living in San Antonio at one point, and I was looking to interview this BMX rider by the name of Dominique Daniels, and there wasn't a lot of information about her, and it was very frustrating because she was literally the number one BMX rider in the world, and she happened to be African American, and she had the funky braids going on, different colors all the time. I loved how unapologetically Black she was and what she was doing at the time. She's retired now, but at the time I was trying to interview her, it was hard to find information about her. So I kept thinking to myself, it's sad that we don't hear more about athletes like this, and we always hear about the same Black athletes, female athletes. It's bigger than Candace Parker. It's bigger than the Venus and Serena and Simone. Like, as much as we love what they've done for the culture of the sports and things like that, there's something very mainstream about Candace Parker's brand that is not necessarily it can be translated everywhere, but it's not. There's this culture that there's this lack of depth to it to me at times that I'm like, there are other athletes out there who have a bit more of that going on that I'm like, well, what about their stories, right? Where are their stories? So for me, after that point, I started curating content that expressed that, and athletes we wouldn't normally even hear about. I was trying to put them out there. I was trying to follow them and things like that. And for me, especially when you live in Texas, you come across a lot of female athletes and what they've done for their various sports, whether it's boxing or track, even bobsledding. The impact that you have, because a lot of times people don't think about these sports when they think about women's sports and even women who come out of Texas, because some certain things are more regional than others. So for me, I've been able to kind of use, when I started off writing and things like that, I started off in college writing. And I was more so writing about men's sports because that was where,
Yeah.
You said what?
That's
Oh,
where
no,
it is.
yeah, that's where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to, that was honestly, I had the best experience doing that too, just because it allowed me to travel and have a unique experience, because I went back to college for the second time just to finish. And so I had a very unique experience in terms of my writing path. It's non-traditional, to say the least. And so for me, I've continued to push out content far beyond just the X's and O's of things. It's more so what about the culture. How did we get to this point, and what does that look like? Because oftentimes when we talk about the WNBA, we don't talk about the context of Black history, right?
Sure.
So, things like that are the way I'm looking, the scope, the lens I look at it from. So that's coming up with Women's Sports Culturalist.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we on our podcast, that was one of the things at first we just wanted to do fantasy sports, well, mainly fantasy basketball. And to your point, when you start digging in to beyond the stats or the, beyond just the game, and you start looking at what it means, what basketball means in our country and to these players, you start really finding those stories that like resonate, that you may not be the mainstream.
Yes.
Even like Candace Parker has a brand that's mainstream, but there's always, maybe the undrafted players that have like great stories as well that we're not getting in front. So I love that. And then you covered, how did that translate to you going into more of the WNBA, and in particular the Dallas Wings?
Okay, so at one point I started covering college basketball at my university, which is A&M Commerce. They were one of the top programs coming out this season. Congratulations to Coach Burton. They literally have been building ever since, and for the past 5 or 6 seasons, they've really been building that program up. And I want to say that was more so the start. I was covering them and men's basketball there. And then I want to say I saw where Howard Magdal from High Post Hoops was looking for somebody to cover Dallas in the 2018 season. So, he ended up hooking that up, ended up getting that going. And that's how I ended up, starting. I started along with was it Dorothy Gentry, and what was her name? Ari's gonna be mad when she sees this.
Chambers.
Yes, thank you. I always forget Ari. But yeah, I started off with her, and then that ended up translating into covering them for that season. Of course, that was the last season that Liz played here. Liz came back. So it was a very interesting season, to say the least. It was, but it was very impactful. I ended up meeting later on that season. We ended up doing the All-Star Weekend, and I ended up meeting a lot of the players in the media side. I ended up meeting a lot of them. My tight knit group, who I chat with literally every day. We're on social media, and our group chat just lit. Just like sending each other texts like, "Girl, I know you saw this today."
We know that group text.
Yes, shout out to my mini tribe. They hold me down, and they encouraging as far as the journey has gone. But for me, it's just kind of been gradual progression, but also understanding like what's missing from the voice of the league. I also covered. They used to be WNBA Kicks. Now they're Made for the W. But I was covering their first season, so we were doing a lot of that. Got to meet a lot. I ended up meeting several goats that season. I got to interview Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, Dawn Staley, Rebecca Lobo.
Nice.
It was just mind-boggling. it was just a mind-boggling experience. But at the end of the day, it was definitely one of those understanding. Shout out to Mel. Her and her crew do an amazing job with that. But we are on the phone often, just kind of talking about what's next, what's
Right.
missing, why is it missing. I think that's a huge question that needs to be answered. But
Right.
yeah.
So, following up on what you were just saying, it sounds like there's, and maybe I'm wrong, but is there a big difference between how it felt when you were covering the NBA and who you were working with there versus the people that you worked with and found when you're working in the WNBA?
The thing about it is, I mean, I've covered maybe one or two Maverick games. I'd like literally, and I'm not gonna lie, like most people know I'm getting into men's sports. Like I'm not. My allegiance has always been on the women's side. So a lot of people are always trying to cover men's sports, especially here in Dallas. Dallas is a very unique culture. I think maybe more so like a Chicago or. Even LA, where there's always something going on, and there's always some sporting event going on. And especially when we're talking about in the heart of Dallas Cowboys country, it's a whole nother ball game, literally. So for me, I'm always trying to look for, I guess, what's not being covered, because I know there's more opportunity there too, and that's just my brand.
Right.
The most I've covered the Dallas Mavericks has been like when I did the a year after the sexual harassment scandal had hit. I followed up with them about what their organization looks like a year later, how the women there. I only spoke to the women. I did not speak to Mark Cuban. I only spoke to their CEO, St. Marshall, their DJ. I spoke to women within the organization who have had different experiences and things like that. And DJ Poison Ivy, I've spoken to her a few different times. So at the end of the day, that's the extent of which I've done it. So I can't speak on, the NBA at all.
Right. But do you feel like, there's so much more you could have done with the NBA, but there just wasn't any support to get you farther to do more with the NBA, whereas WNBA, or where you ended up heading, it was because you had more support or more people that wanted to open the door for you. I'm just wondering, because I know like all of us work in sports, and we have found that we've had to make our own niche, our own lane, and find the people that support it, like yourself, doing what you do. We admire you. We say like, damn, let's talk to her. Let's, and you were like right away, yes, let's do this. Let's get together, just from Twitter. Whereas a lot of times, we couldn't do that with the NBA. We have a harder time trying to find, men athletes. Whereas our male counterparts, they're like, they have coaches on Rolodex, and they've been, and all of that. So I'm wondering if, you've seen that pattern, or if you've had those thoughts or feelings.
For me, I'm the type of person organically, if I have a relationship with an athlete, sure, like I'm going to go ahead and work with that. But, it's so funny. Oftentimes my colleagues and I, we talk about this in terms of the NBA versus WNBA, and most people prefer to cover WNBA games because of access, the cooperation's different. And even some of us, although we might complain sometimes about the cooperation in communication, it's definitely there. At least we can have these conversations. We don't have to have have been covering the team for 3 years to get an interview, right? So, and I think that's why a lot of us who do cover the W are a little less hesitant to cover NBA after a certain point. I literally had this conversation the other day with a group I interviewed, and Meredith Minkow, she brought up that point, and I was like, and she bring this point up as a point of reference as a photographer. So a lot, and I'm a writer, so a bunch of us having different experiences, we're experiencing this, right? And so, and even I've noticed that the strong hand of the NBA does often tap into the W, and it can be frustrating. And it's the politics sometimes of it that makes you just not even want to touch the NBA. And the thing about it is, it's easier for me to get an interview with Liz Cambage than LeBron James.
Right.
Stature the same, dang near stature the same. And people will say, oh, no, they're not the same. Okay, whatever. Like at the end of the day, when you honestly compare the two in terms of popularity and things like that, and hateration, yes, it's yes. You can definitely find a few correlations there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's a matter of preference at this point, more than support. Because I mean, I've run into people who have been supportive for sure. I think that the Mavs have a great communications department, and so I know it wouldn't be hard for me to do. But I think there are times I look around the W and I'm like, there are a lot of stories that haven't been told. Then I look on NBA.
Yeah.
Golly, I feel like we've heard this story about 2 or 3 times now. Like, it kind of gets a bit repetitive on the men's side, and I think that's okay.
That's such a great point. That's something that we found too. It's like we've said this in Karen and I. When we started this podcast, we said it in the past. We're like, how many people are going to cover that same play over and over and over and over again? So we're just like, we're going to skip it.
Well, and that's what I see working in social, right? Like on game nights.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, like, there's a dunk and everybody's posting the same dunk, and it's like it doesn't have the same meaning when you're posting every highlight or everybody's posting the exact same thing. It's like how can you be different? There's other things that are happening. So it's
I mean go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as a casual basketball fan, I don't start watching NBA honestly until it's either a big matchup, there's a big significance to a game, or it's the playoffs, right? So for me, and honestly too, the way I grew up watching basketball, I grew up watching such a fundamental game that the women's game has evolved over the years a lot faster, I feel like, than the men's has.
Yeah.
To the point that, especially going to a WNBA game, is very different than watching on TV, as we all.
Oh yes.
So for me, I know that my preference is even to just watch the WNBA. It's just a pure sport in terms of the physicality, at times the intellect. It seems like. Like seriously, because I mean, I watch a lot of the NBA games. I watch enough of the NBA games to the point I'm just kind of like, I feel like I'm watching street ball. Like, and
you're not wrong.
Yeah,
it's like it's not a knock on those players, because I mean, at the end of the day, this is the entertainment business, right? So people entertain. I'm not so much. For me, I love watching what I grew up watching. So I mean, and to each his own, her own, whatever, but.
Right.
Hard pass on the NBA.
That's such a good point. I know we've been going to WNBA games. I mean, we've gone to NBA and WNBA, but all the points you're saying about WNBA, it's so infectious. I just want to keep going and as much as I can, So we could totally agree with that. As you were talking, you did mention that you had interviewed with Meredith Minico, and I actually saw your episode number 2 of Players of the New School.
Thank you for the plug.
Yes. Well, I would love it if you could tell us more about it, because as far as I know, you have 2 episodes. I don't know how many seasons you have, but I know I saw the 2 episodes. And I know it's part of the SB Nation's Swish Appeal. So I'd love for you to tell us more about why that show exists, why you wanted that show to exist, who you're bringing on, and what you're hoping to do with it.
Well, who I'm bringing? Well, okay. So as of right now, I find that I'm just creating this like long list of people who I've always wanted to interview, and the list is growing. I find it's very interesting how it's just growing organically. And shout out to the guests who have been on, who have trusted what I was going to do with that. It really stemmed from, I've always had the idea the idea, the podcast idea, the whole bit. And for me, it just was never quite getting off the ground. And I just was, because the thing about it is, sports takes away so much out of you. I just throw this out there. This is my campaign for unglamorizing sports.
Yeah.
I'm over it. No, I'm playing. I just want more young people to understand, especially when you come into this industry, that it's very unglamorous. It takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot of time out of you. And I think it's one of the reasons why, and that includes dating life. So, I remember trying to get off the ground. It was difficult because of my work schedule, and then with sports on the weekends, I just feel like I was never getting much ground with it. And then finally, my editor, the amazing, terrific, beautiful Tamron Spurl, she basically was like, listen, you need to get it together. You need to start putting, pen to pad and putting your work out there. She's like, we have an amazing opportunity with SB Nation for you to get this off the ground, and just let me know what you want to do. Your platform's there. So that's been extremely supportive. And the purpose, she understood the purpose from my perspective was, everybody's always talking about X's and O's. Everybody's kind of like, even some of the WNBA stories are repetitive, right? So
right, just about the game, yeah.
Right. And, I can understand, the need for all of that. Trust me, it's the meat and potatoes of what we need. But I also saw there's a need to have a cultural part of it in there, and getting to know some of the people that we see a lot that contribute to what we see, to what we understand as the legal side of it. Having a Kelsey Trainer kind of talk to us about the legal side of the Taller situation. Having people come on and talk about the sneakers and what that's looking like for the new rookies coming on. And, you kind of have these different perspectives. The last episode, we had 3 content creators, photographers in the league. And I've always been such a fan, admirer of their work and what they do, and like just how they go about doing it. If you look at any of their pages and things like that, you're really kind of able to see what each of them brings is so different. And I mean, to me, some of it's even the future of what the league looks like as far as coverage looks like. And these are the type of people I personally believe that the league should be hiring. Teams should be hiring these individuals because as far as I'm concerned, we say this all the time on Black Twitter, but we are the culture, I'm not down from that. So, I think it's important that we put these type of stories out there, but also too understanding these cultures come from so many different places in the country. Some places don't have beings. So it's very interesting to talk with individuals like that. But I'm excited for what the future holds with this. I know the next thing that we're putting out is the actual podcast of it.
Wow.
Cool. Nice.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. No, that's great. I mean, like I said, we definitely have been following what you've been doing on Twitter, also on Instagram. You just launched the We Got new Instagram handle, right? We Too Got Game or something. Am I wrong there?
We Got Game 2.
Game 2. We Got Game 2. I saw you that was just launched, or I think it was just launched. Feels like it's fairly new.
No, it's been out there for a minute. It's been out there for it's been out there for a few years, but it's one of those things that, when you're doing school, you're doing work, you're not able to dedicate as much time to it as I would love to.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was like, no, because we all work in social, and we're like, you need to have a lot. When people start launching more and more channels, we always go, you got to have like at least 20 hours a day.
Yep. You got the manpower for it? Nope. Well,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
And we all work together as well. We'd be in meetings going, okay, how do we shut this down? How do we get them not to launch a new handle? Because they're getting like 5 people to run just this one on this channel. So yeah, it's like work. We totally understand. Once you launch something, the dedication that it takes to try to build it all is insane among everything else you're doing. Okay, so I know that you are a fan of the Dallas Wings, though.
I'm a struggling fan, but
I
Because they traded everybody away.
I know, but I want you to talk about the draft because I think you guys did so well on the draft.
True.
So first off, just switching gears from career to like your fanship. Okay. What did you think of the WNBA virtual draft? First off, overall, highs, lows, do's, don't, whatever you want to riff off on there. And how do you feel about how the Dallas Wings did in this draft? Because in my opinion, I gave them an A. So I think we're all on this podcast gave them an A. So let's spill it.
An A is a safe bet. I think more so fans, I don't think are necessarily worried about how well Dallas does with drafts. We tend to do fairly well with drafts. I mean, on average, I feel like, B plus, A minus, we tend to do with drafts. I mean, we basically, when you look at the past 2 rookies of the year, last season, it was a narrow margin between Enrique and old girl from Minnesota. So for me, I'm just kind of,
you're right. You're right about that.
But yeah, no, at the end of the day, we tend to do really well with drafts. That's the one thing I guess we can credit Greg with, but I guess that's where the ends and begins, right?
Right.
The leaky pipeline.
Because my thing is, I could give you credit for bringing them in, but when you watch them leave, yes.
Yeah. You don't want your team to be a training camp. Is what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? I even take care of the W. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You've had quite a few that you've had to watch leave here too, right?
It hurts to watch people because it was interesting. I remember thinking a couple seasons back, I was like, man, they're really building something. I'm thinking, man, you have Skylar Diggins-Smith, Liz Campbell, Lori. It was a mind-boggling type of talent that we had. Then at some point you understood, okay, we need a coaching change. That was very obvious. We needed a coaching change. As much as we love Fred had to go. But the tipping point for me was, I think, when, and you're going to have to mind my timeline, but the Fred incident, when they got into a fight, because the thing about it is you get to know some of these people and you get to know personnel. Fred's the last person I'm assuming will fight. Though I will say he definitely gives me OG vibes. Like, you just don't, just in case, don't let what I'm saying? He'll call you Jack just before he jacks you up. You know what I'm saying? At the same time, I thought to myself, how unprofessional is this? That, to me, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know who started it. But something tells me you had to know what buttons to push to even get Fred to that point. And then all this is speculation and some of this things that we've heard, because I will say, when you talk about leaks, people talk, people organization talk, people who used to work there, executives who used to work there, people are talking. The streets are literally talking, as we've seen today with Skylar. She's like, girl, call me.
Yes.
The rookies call me. I'm like, bro, you got something messed up with your camp when you got stuff like that happening.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's gonna be something where he's just gonna have to go. And there's just no other way around it at this point. People, because I know for a long time people wanted to make it seem like Liz was the main issue.
The scapegoat.
Thank you. And I think it's really easy to do that because Liz is outspoken. Whereas I feel like if Diana Taurasi had done this, it wouldn't have been the same at all. And I think there are so many layers to that.
Yeah.
But when I look at what we currently have now in terms of what we did in the draft, I think we did well. To me, it's just a matter of how long can we get Enrique to stay? How long can we get Alicia to stay? all these players and pieces that they're trying to build with the new era with Aguilar, and Aguilar's status still unknown. It's just too much. It got to a point where I even had to tell Tamron, she assigned me this Dallas Wings piece or something like that, and I was like, please God no. I said, just not give me any more Wings stuff. I'm not trying to do that anymore.
Hold the wings.
It's too many questions surrounding this team to even start speculating.
Right.
What does this mean what does the draft mean for the team?
Right.
I mean, what? Yeah, but on top of that, what's the deal with the coach? It's just too many questions.
Yeah.
But as far as the virtual draft, I thought it was interesting in comparison to the NFL, which we know the NFL has like mafia money. Like,
oh God,
like those packages, the drama stories. Oh my God.
Oh God. Tragedy porn.
We talked about this on our last podcast. It's literally 1,000 hours of the NFL draft on the main channel. Yes. First off, and then you see every player got every jersey, every hat of every team sent to them just in case. They got the whole kit of, equipment. It was insane. I literally saw Joe Burrows get picked and stopped watching.
This is a smart bet. Like, I mean, because my whole thing was the players you probably follow anyway, they were probably going to retweet their selection part anyway. And that's a lot of what sports is now. Like, I stopped watching past certain points. I'm like, I can watch highlights on Twitter. Yeah. But yeah, it was just interesting to me that they had so much. I mean, the type of sponsorships that they had, the type of activations that were unique to what they did. I think Old Spice did a really good job about that. Different things that the players were doing. And I thought to myself, what happened to all the sponsors that like they were talking about? We had, and no one thought to. And I'm thinking to myself, they probably looked at. I'm guessing I'm assuming they probably looked at or didn't look at the amount of time that they were going to have to be exposed to that, and so we just didn't get the same luster of. I mean, we got more lag than luster, and so
it's like waiting for them to react. You're like,
poor Holly Rowe was like asking questions and like waiting and waiting and waiting.
Yeah, at least get a telecom sponsor. You know what I mean? Get that.
Yeah.
Gee.
What happened, AT&T? I mean, I would see AT&T commercials nonstop since this thing hit, and I'm just like, so what happened? But yeah, no, I mean, Holly's gonna definitely need a break after all this because she's definitely been one of the more professional as far as WNBA content since this whole thing hit. Outside of just draft night, she's been done an incredible job. But
yeah,
I thought and I think it's beautiful that we continue to be trailblazers, that we were the first virtual pro draft. I thought that was really dope. I thought they did well for what they had.
Yeah.
To put it simply, because again, no one has been able to do it like they have. And I don't even think they use the same production company that the NFL used. So that's, to be fair, I think that, when you're able to kind of break that down a little differently. And I wouldn't be surprised, too, if, like, agents had bigger pockets with the NFL draft to make sure certain things, at least on their end, they were like, y'all not about to mess this up for my client. What do we need to do to, I'm pretty sure that was done. But, like I said, I think you can take pride in being trailblazers, and most of it went well. It was definitely, there were moments of it was just a hot mess, but overall.
It would have been nice for them to at least have their jerseys. I mean, there's 12 teams. You can have the jerseys. That seems a little
out of stock.
No brainer to me. But
yeah, and I think they only showed 2 round pick, like the second round pick. They didn't even go to the third because I know my team's the LA Sparks, and they were like didn't show any of the picks.
It's kind of mind-boggling to see that, like in terms of. We're talking about the jerseys. I think what's really interesting, and I found this out. I know some people may not realize this, but like most teams give players maybe 2 jerseys max for a season. Like they don't give them a plethora of jerseys. I mean, 5 or 6. No, they usually only give them
What?
2. Yeah.
And there's how many versions in an NBA team? You got your city version, you got your home version, you got your like.
Girl, I know. I was blown away to find that out.
I'm blown away.
I cannot. Like, can we start?
I had more jerseys in high school. I would always get so confused on what jersey we're wearing tonight. Like, that was high school.
It is. It's crazy. I was a manager in high school, so for me, I remember us having a lot of jerseys.
Yeah.
Wow.
My AAU team. What color are we wearing tonight?
That is a fucking shocker.
That's shocking.
Honestly surprised they haven't given them the mesh, like, reversible one.
Right, the pennies.
You get
like
one. You get one. Flip it over. Got yesterday's
Febreze, that's a sponsor.
Right. And if you lose that bug, it's coming out your next check.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that make me so sad. And I always say, you know, the thing that's really crazy is how much money they leave on the table. You know, can you imagine how much merch we would buy?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, Sabrina's jersey sold out within seconds.
Yep.
Hey, you know, I keep hearing this name come up. And, you know.
Oh!
Oh.
Do tell.
Ooh.
Y'all just can't. Y'all just brought me out here to spill tea. Now,
Yes.
no, listen. It comes across as hateration, and don't get me wrong. Some South Carolina fans are hating on her, but I think it's more so the system that's more so the problem. There's so many other exterior factors in terms of why people cannot stand Sabrina, and it doesn't have anything to do with her. It has to do with the fact that we should have been putting college jerseys out before she even started playing, like before she even got to Oregon. Like there were so many other deserving players, and some people are going to be offended, but I've said this more than once, not publicly, but I've said it comes across at times like this, like there's this need to have a great white hype, right?
Yeah. I was going to say savior, but yeah.
Yeah. And like, again, I'm not hating because she's mad talented. I mean, nobody will ever take that away from her. Right. But when I look at so many other players, like, I'm sitting there thinking of Satu, like, Satu would probably be the draft pick if Sabrina wasn't. And I'm thinking to myself, too, would Sabrina be as good as she was if she didn't have Satu or Ruthie on her team? Like, those are the type of things I also question at times, too. I think Sabrina deserved, like, she broke a bunch of records. It's obvious she deserves these type of things. I mean, especially with her connection with Nike and things like that. Mm-hmm. Certain things are going to roll her way. That's facts. But, you know, Adidas, where was Enrique's jersey back-to-back seasons? You know what I'm saying? Like, after certain, like, people were talking about Enrique for what? A while. There was just so much talk about her and like the excitement that she brought to the league. But I think it's a culmination of players like this who bring excitement to the game. But I feel like it rests on us personally, the media, to expose, you know, a plethora of players and not just the same one. Always featured in so much. And I'm like, what about, like, I thought I loved that Lil Wayne has thrown his full support into Jenny Carter because it's
so cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love the Southern love, Southern hospitality with it, a whole bit. I'm looking forward to now. Satu, from my understanding, is dating now allegedly. I'll just go with that. Allegedly dating a player for the Dallas Cowboys. So in my mind, she's probably going to be more motivated to stay here.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
if they stay together. Now, if they don't stay together, somebody gonna ask for a trade. And
we'll know why.
Yeah.
We'll know why she asked for a trade.
see them in pictures and stuff anymore. I'm sorry, asking questions. I'm like, well, there she goes. But yeah, I mean, when you talk about leaving money on the table, I think it's a lack of just putting effort. I think people who are sitting at these tables don't look like us, ladies. I honestly believe that.
Yep, agreed.
You know, and it's frustrating because, you know, I think what the Made for the W has done is kind of expose that. That there are a bunch of storylines that y'all failed to cover, but that's all right. We got y'all.
Yeah.
And, you know, now you're starting to see more players actually getting signed to some of these deals with East Bay and, you know, Foot Locker and things like that. And finally kind of getting some headway with that. But I don't understand the obsession with Sabrina. And mind you, I low key, I'm like, there's not much of a personality, like not like Asia Wilson's personality.
Right. No,
Right.
the lack of personality for sure.
Yeah. So for me, there are times I'm like, I literally will go online sometimes and look and see how much stuff is selling for. And people are selling her stuff for hundreds of dollars online. And I'm like, I have not seen this before. Like maybe some OG stuff on eBay, but you know, $500 for a signed Sabrina Nescu jersey. I thought that, no. I'm like, maybe there's this new wave of, you know, that coming in, but it's only going to be her. Like I've noticed it's just going to be her, and I feel like you leave as a league, you leave yourself exposed to not exposing more players, and you know, I just feel like that's going to be a detriment long term.
And I mean, do you think it's also because, and I don't, this is just shitty to begin with, but like there wasn't a male in the college basketball, all of college basketball, that was like a Zion, you know? They didn't have that this year. It was Sabrina was like the name, and the media every year latches onto somebody, right? And unfortunately for women, it's usually they latch onto the male athletes, and there wasn't one in college basketball this year that was worth latching onto. So it kind of fell onto Sabrina, because I guarantee if there was a Zion or something, like Sabrina we'd be all like, who? You know, unless you
like a banana.
Unless you followed women's basketball, then you would obviously know. But like there just wasn't a male, you know, in college basketball that was up to her level, that was worth wanting to get excited about, like Zion, because ESPN was like Zion was the god, you know, and before that it was like, I don't even know. Lonzo Ball or whoever. I don't even remember. But like they latch on to people. Like in football, it was Baker Mayfield, right? Like they latch on to these people, and everything that they do, every story, everything comes back to them somehow. And there really wasn't that last year.
I think too has to do with safety, right? Like someone that's cookie cutter, safe brand,
right?
Also laziness, because if a writer is just like, I'm not really that interested in women's sports. Oh, Sabrina's big, I'll cover that.
I agree. I totally agree. And I mean, I agree to both points though, too. I mean, whatever sells. And I'll be honest, I mean, a lot of us spoke behind the scenes and we're kind of like, well, I think some people even have spoke publicly about this, but like her association with Kobe Bryant. I mean,
that boom.
Yeah. I mean, I think that definitely helped her. I mean, and I think with men are so basic when it comes to sports.
They
like to overall.
Yeah. Not just sports.
So, you know, I feel like it's not that surprising to see them only latch on to one player and, you know, run with that and think that that's enough. And, you know, even when I look at how brands are handling it, you know, they're doing the same exact thing. And I'm like, well, you know, y'all make it seem as though and to me, I keep going back to, they just don't want to make the investment. And that's not financially.
That's the thing.
But, you know, pouring resources, pouring time into these other players, you just don't want to make that investment. Laziness. Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating to a lot of us who are passionate and invested in these teams, these players. and we don't get the opportunity to highlight that. So a lot of us end up taking the route I've taken and just create your own, platform, doing your own thing, and hoping that gets out there. And I think it's important to highlight the people behind the scenes who are also covering, because again, like I said earlier, you have to be able to invest in the right people to actually get the message out there too.
Yeah.
And that, I think that was our biggest beef with the virtual draft, was it felt like they had all this time and they were the first ones, and they could have, you just figured they'd invest so much money to make it as best as it could be and highlight this league that it's literally the only sport that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the NBA could have put so much money into it and made it so big and blew it out. And it was just, it felt like it was just like a afterthought, like a, well, we've got this thing,
I know if we had 2 hours on ESPN, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, we're going big.
We're going nuts. We're animals and like balloons, rocket. We're going crazy up in there.
I'm getting Gucci partnerships. I'm doing something.
Hell yeah. Getting nails. We're getting everybody out there. It's going to be bananas what we're going to do.
If your own league isn't investing in you, why should Joe Schmo down the street? That there's no, I don't get it. I don't understand. That was my biggest beef with that draft, amongst other things. I went on my TED Talk the other day.
She did.
No, I understand. I feel like we often get one off at least once a month. Because in my mind, I'm sitting there, I'm with y'all. I'm like, y'all, let me know. Because I was joking about how somebody made WNBA banners, like party banners, but it looked like a 10-year-old did it. I was like, yo, we can get bad WNBA masks for coronavirus, but we can't get party
banners.
Like, what is going on up there? I get New York is under mad quarantine right now, but what is truly the problem? And it's so funny because I'm like, when we saw how many people were over at Kennedy Carter's house, I was sitting there thinking, man, this would have been the perfect time to have that Ciroc sponsorship.
Diddy, where you at?
Oh, gosh.
Because after I found out we had the Hennessy partnership, that's what I meant, Hennessy. I was like, man, this is a great opportunity. Because listen, hey, it's all about the culture. Listen, so I'm not going to.
Well, I mean, come on, Vivica Fox is all over the LA Sparks Stadium. Let's bring her hair care products and give the wigs out.
Yes, lace fronts all around.
Get all the wigs out.
It was so many missed. Like, personally, for me, I'm still thrown for how many, and I said this before, I'm like, for all these black women, you would think, there would be a major hair care sponsor for the league.
Right. Yes.
I'm so confused, but I'm like, hey, maybe they were like, maybe they started looking at that budget. They were like, oh, no.
Well, the execs know nothing about black hair, so they're not even probably thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, as much as the commissioner is coming from Deloitte or wherever she's from, she don't know about black hair.
Yeah, no, and I guarantee you, when they had that sponsorship for Hennessy, she was definitely not in that room. What is this? A Hennessy? What is a Hennessy?
She was not in.
What's an alcohol? I don't
know. Well, how do you feel about the new commissioner? I mean, she seems I got to, she did a panel with Chene Umake from Sparks here in Los Angeles. She has a lot of insights and she wants to do a lot of things. How do you feel about her, and are you confident that things will change?
I'm a Kathy fan so far, because I'm the type of person, I'm like, look, and I said this from jump. I said, I'm not getting on any Kathy train, buses, whatever, until I actually see progress and action. In no particular order. I want to see this. And it's one thing if she tries and is not able to succeed because of politics, but if I see that this woman has tried, fine. But thus far, I haven't seen her really miss yet. And that, to me, it really kind of started off last season with a lot of noticeable things. The biggest thing was playoff, how she changed the playoffs a little bit in terms of playoff accommodations. So I'm like, okay, you're here for the players, which is major, right? Because far too often, I think when you start looking at the politics of things, the players are the last ones to really they'll be more concerned about, should we change the 3-point line back further, or should we, 30 seconds of, what? It's like, listen, you need to make sure these women and these moms are accommodated for. And that's my biggest thing, because I'm tired of seeing such a lackluster effort when it comes to dealing with personnel in this league. Mm-hmm. So that really helped me. That really started giving me the confidence in her. And then I saw the CBA, how that played out. Yep. And I thought to myself, awesome. Now, the one thing I have questioned about the CBA is how will the players be I guess my biggest thing is, how will the players be compensated now with the not having a season, because essentially we're not doing that.
Right.
So that's something I question. But overall, I would like to think she's going to do right by these players, since we've just never been here before.
Yeah.
And she has the insight to do that. From her business background, she's able to do that. I really believe in her in that regard. The fact that they were able to really, because there were so many ways they could have done the draft, to be perfectly honest with you. They could have said, we're just going to have a live board on the WNBA website. And for those of us who actually despise the WNBA website, I think...
There's a
while to get.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah,
despise. Absolutely despise. Thank you.
It's terrible.
Right. No, especially from a journalist perspective, because we're like, is this information even going to be accurate? So, the fact that they decided to partner with ESPN and do that, get that off the ground, I think it's a relatively short amount of time, I'm guessing. And I think what I have said, right, like with everything going on right now, this is going to be one of the bigger tests. And I think time will tell after this is over and how they recover for next year, especially with, the Olympics happening next year. But at the same time, I'm not sure if it'll conflict with the season that we're going to end up having. What the NBA decides to. Because I know it's always like NBA, whatever the NBA is doing first, that's the concern. And then the afterthought. So to me, based on how these things happen in the next year or so, I think they're going to be huge tests. And I'm like, if you can get through this, Kathy, you will be fine, girl. Like,
yeah.
So I do have the confidence based on what I've seen, though, that, she will get us through this for sure.
And do you feel, we've been reading a lot about the momentum that was created this past season in women's sports, right? Yep. How do you feel the coronavirus, the pandemic, the shutdown? A lot of pieces are saying this could be detrimental to what has, been, the momentum that it's had. I don't think it is. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because, we're surrounded by people who are also like, no, we're going to make this shit happen. Like, we don't care. Virus, Rona, whatever, we're going to make this shit happen. So, and then the piece I read was from the Wall Street Journal, who, they may be looking at it a different way, they're looking maybe from the outside in. How do you feel about the momentum and how women's sports are going to come through this?
I think when you talk about all the different takes, I think they're all valid in their own unique way. They're all very valid because there are too many unknown variables going on right now. And there's just so much we don't know. And so I think when you talk about the momentum, though, here's my thing. The reality is, if the sport is not going on, some momentum is definitely lost. Mm-hmm. Just in general, right? Off that alone. Now, all of it, no. But I think, here's my thing, though, too. I've said this time and time again, and I've said, if there was no contingency plan in place to keep sex, I don't even think the league had planned on the type of momentum it's experienced over the past 3 seasons. If we're being perfectly honest with you,
yeah.
Because most of this has come off college, off the back of women's Final Four, right?
Yep.
Rike, now Sabrina. So I thought that there was always a lot of lost and missed opportunities with trying to fuse and sync the two together and just kind of keep that momentum going. I feel like at the end of the day, this is probably the worst case scenario from a player like Sabrina, because she has probably the most to lose in not playing right now, given what she came in with.
Yeah.
But overall, when you look at women's sports in general, I think there's still a lot of news out there. So there's a relevance, right? They're relevant. But the same, I think people, though I will say this, I think the advantage we have is if we were the first league, and I thought to myself, if we're able to pull this off, we have the most to gain by coming out of Rona, and we're the first league that's playing first. Like, we're the first league out. And so unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen because you would also have baseball to contend with. And a lot of people are more basketball fans than baseball fans. So I guess in my mind, I always kind of considered that. But as I look into the type of content that a lot of us are putting out, it's allowing it to stay very relevant. What a lot of us are doing rewatches, and the stations are realizing, we should probably be playing old games and stuff like that, nostalgic games of the Olympic teams and things like that. Because the women's team is still the most dominant out of globally and home side, men's or women. So I think when you continue to put it out there, you allow for that momentum to at least, remain constant, but not necessarily going up, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now with it. And I look forward to seeing how people use this time, because I think this is allowing a lot of, especially players who wouldn't normally have time to create content. We're starting to see a lot of content come out of this.
Good and bad.
Tell me about it.
I mean, how many IG lives happen in one day? I think, what the hell? Sometimes my phone at a certain time of the day has 20 IG lives going.
It's insane. I'm like, y'all can't have that much to say, because I'll on accident slip on one. I'm like,
that makes me so angry when I accidentally slip on someone's IG live. I mean, and I love Chanae, but I don't need to see her work out because I'm definitely not going to join in.
I'm not doing it, sis. I see you though. You trying to keep your body tight. I get it, but we're gonna pass over here.
That literally doesn't have to be an IG live. That can be an IGTV that you post later.
And nothing makes you feel worse when you're gnawing on a candy bar and somebody's workout IG live pops up.
You're eating.
You got ice cream going in your mouth, and you're oh shit.
You're eating, scrolling, and you tap into someone workout. You're like, fuck you.
You feel like they can see you too. You're like, oh no.
Yes.
You hide it under the covers real quick.
How do I get out of here?
Literally, all I want to see are parents being a hot mess on TikTok and animals.
Yes.
Yes.
It's so funny too, because Ari Chambers, that's my girl. She'll randomly send me videos of her dog, and it's so funny because I call him nephew, and I'm like, girl, what are you up to today? And he is so over life. It's so funny because I'm like, this angry.
Yeah.
She sends me these things just knowing it's going to be the highlight of my day.
So true.
I do like, though, that these players are having that chance to show their personality, which I think we've always said has been one of the things that we don't see enough of, is the narratives of all the players, women athletes, WNBA in the context of this conversation, and their personalities and their stories coming out, and them having, Liz, of course, Liz Cambage, who, girl, she is, she put out her cooking all her vegan foods. And I'm like, I'm into this. I'll watch this all day, And so things like that, it's really great to see them putting that out there, building up their own brand and understanding the power that has. I think that's a lot of times what's missed is we miss the power that we have in ourselves and what we do to reach. And then with that reach comes the growth, right?
Yeah. So true. I mean, so much of what these women do is so empowering. And I often think about how much of this we actually miss because right now players can't even go overseas to play. So, and obviously the strategy has been how do we keep players home? And I think they're doing. That's another thing I wanted to commend, Kathy for is like trying to keep players home. Like, how can we do this? And working with USA Basketball to make sure that happens. But I think there's so much truth to that, and just making sure that we're able to see because I wish that the league had more. Did not contract. I wish they would at least contract just WNBA person, like at least people who are used to covering WNBA. I wish they would contract them for more original content as opposed to NBA people in for the season. Because it's like it's a miss, and we constantly see it, and it's embarrassing. By the way, I just saw that they are currently hiring for that position. So, yes, if anybody's interested, but I want to see more of that. Like it's so necessary because if you just look at what Sydney Colson does alone, is just absolutely brilliant. But she's been doing this for years,
right?
And the league finally kind of caught on and was like, hey, let's just give her a spot. Where I'm like, there are a few more spots available because with nothing going on, y'all got time.
Yes. Time.
Plenty of time. I mean, so much. So, gosh, I can't tell you, this conversation is fantastic. It's so great to be speaking to you about all this stuff because these are things that we think about too. And it's good to like have, this conversation, not feel crazy all the time just with ourselves. So this is great. And before we wrap, I do have to ask you, because I know we all want to know, and this is like the major event that's happening right now. What are you thinking about The Last Dance? Your face already.
Such a loaded question. It's so much to digest every week because literally you're finding out something new, and then you're also being pulled back into time, right? Living a lot of these childhood memories, and some of them that were blurry. You kind of reliving those, and for me, let's just go back to the last episode. You had Rodman in Dallas, and it was interesting watching his 30 for 30. So we already having that background, kind of watching how his respect for Michael, what their type of relationship was for him to just show up, Carmen Electra half naked, getting out of bed, trying to like Michael Jordan's at the door and he ain't playing. So kind of getting that type of context in terms of how their team chemistry dynamic work is so crazy. And it's like to listen to Phil Jackson talking about just giving a player his time to go to Vegas and then come back is mind-boggling because also as soon as I heard it though, I immediately thought of the Liz Kimbe situation where he asked for time off and she got it. But I also thought to myself, putting the players in the right situations, that goes a long way. And I thought the team that they're currently highlighting for The Last Dance, you're kind of seeing how this team was engineered even. Yeah. And I think that is so interesting. I think that this episode tonight, I think they're going to talk about the marketing side of Michael Jordan, which is always, I think, because even today, he still is relevant as LeBron James as far as marketing.
Oh, right? The shoes, everything, the collabos, different colorways, all of that on J's.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing how you just look at the team and even though we've only had this is the second week or third week?
This will be the third week. Yeah.
But just looking at the impact that this team still has on, because everybody's tuned in. Like
Yeah.
everybody.
Oh yeah.
Tuned in. I noticed they broke the record for the premiere.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think to myself, and it's so interesting. Many of us have talked about this. Is like, even as much as they were a dynasty, on the women's side, we still we deserve a Houston Comets documentary with the same luster as, I mean, mind you, it won't be during the coronavirus, Lord help us. But you know, I'm looking forward to that too, because I feel like there's so much that people have no clue about that I'm excited. I'm hoping they keep it real, because you know, just over the years, I've heard different things. I've heard, that I'm like, I had no clue this was going on with the team. So I'm excited to hopefully get that in our lifetime. Because I kid you not, I noticed that men and women alike seem to, the one thing they agree on is the Houston Comets. Like, it has some type of appeal that because mind you, it was going on around the same time the Bulls were in their prime.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there was a respect in the 90s. 90s culture was very different though too. So
Yeah.
and the women were more prevalent in our faces all the time, and we were able to see that. So in that correlation, I think it's going to be really interesting once we finally get that. But I'm glad this is a 10-parter. I'm glad they moved the premiere up.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it couldn't be happening at a better time. The only thing I'm mad about is the movie theaters closed. I wanted to go get some popcorn and watch it. Not everything is reopened in Texas, apparently. So.
Oh God.
Oh, okay. Be safe.
Be safe. Yeah.
I'm staying in. I'm good.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, probably not the best time.
And it's one life. It's cool.
Well, I mean, again, thank you. This has been such a great conversation.
Yeah.
We're
Awesome.
so glad to have you on. Thank you for taking the time to come on to the podcast. Tell our audience all the places that we can find you on the internet. Let us know.
Thank you guys again for having me on. Y'all are amazing. Love what y'all are bringing to the table. It's long overdue, so I appreciate y'all putting the effort that you put into reaching out to me and like wanting to encourage this foolishness. You can find me. We got games on all social media. A lot of times, you can find my stuff on switchappeal.com. A lot of my stuff is on there as well. So definitely check me out. Follow me. Right back. I will. I may or may not be pleasant, but I will definitely.
Well, we love you. We love what you're doing. Again, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Like, this is definitely it's been great. And this conversation, I know we could take it on for more and more and more and more time, but we're going to have you back.
Yes, please.
Definitely.
Please come back. And hey, we might even have a season. So doubtful, but
I'm about to say that hope. You keep hoping. All that energy. I feel it. It.
Maybe 2K will make a WNBA 2K, and then we'll see it virtually.
Hey, no lag. But yeah, no. When we get back, definitely have me back on once we are tipping off in the whole bit. So
yeah,
definitely. Always welcome.
Always. Thank you again. This is Women Crush Wednesday. Jasmine Baker. We'll have all the links on our website, on the episode notes. And thanks so much. Happy to have you. And we are back. Woo! Wow. How amazing is Jasmine? That was such great. She's a great Women Crush Wednesday. So awesome. We're going to have all of her, the links to her stories and her website and the other like YouTube stuff she's doing on our episode notes. So keep that in mind so that you can hit them up. So that went long and we loved it. So I think we want to hit on one major sports news event that just played itself out. and I really think it's played out. But right, this is gonna be like this to let off some steam too, because this got us really upset. So the U.S. women's soccer team's equal pay lawsuit was dismissed. Boo! What the fuck? Seriously. I read that and I'm like, so basically what the judge is saying is the reason why he dismissed it was because the women were able to show that they actually made more than the men this season. What?
How?
But what, like individually through sponsorships or some shit? Because they actually won last year?
He said through the ticket sales and through their own like brand promotions that they made more money. They made more money than the men. And so there is no case for equal pay because they're actually making more money.
Well, like, yeah, if I'm getting paid less than my male counterpart and I'm doing 3-4 side hustles and my AGI for taxes is higher, sure. But that's because
you're having to do all the extra work.
Yeah.
Fucking shit.
Seriously.
It is 2020 is just straight trash.
No, I can't. With this, the murder hornets now.
Oh my God. Fucking murder.
It is literally like we're in a 2020 is just a TV show that hasn't been renewed, and the writers are like, well, fuck it, man.
Let everyone blow up.
This is season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Fuck yeah. They're like, I'm Cersei under the rubble.
they're like, Kobe, kill him. He's dead.
Yeah, he's done.
Let's see, what else can we? Oh, fires. Let's light up Australia.
Yeah.
Earthquakes. Let's do it. Earthquakes.
Give LA 2 of them.
Murder hornets.
Murder hornets.
Throw them in. Like,
oh my gosh, too. I just saw like, not to like dwell on murder hornets, but one, the planet obviously wants us to never go outside again.
Yeah, like leave us alone.
Yeah, the planet's like, nah. If the Rona ain't gonna keep you motherfuckers out inside, we're gonna throw murder hornets. We got murder hornets. But also, I read that a scientist said the way to deal with murder hornets is to run in the other direction.
What?
That's how you deal with a murder hornet. You just run.
Can they just not change direction?
They're not omni-turners. They don't know how to turn.
Like the best way to deal with them is just run.
You have to
can't turn left.
Yeah, you do like the crocodile zigzag.
Yeah, like when you're avoiding getting shot, you're running in a zigzag.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, that's science.
Was that Mike Pence? Was it Mike Pence that you heard that from?
Yeah, did Trump say to run and drink Clorox at the same time?
He's like, I heard if you throw one of those Mr. Clean magic erasers at it, they'll just be gone.
Yeah. So this shit just keeps rolling. And now it's falling on these beautiful athletes of the United States women's soccer. Thankfully, Megan Rapinoe, she said, we will never stop fighting for equality. She tweeted that out. So I know they're going to appeal the decision, but
we need more women and women of color going to law school and becoming judges. Come on, ladies. Like, we got to fix this fucking country.
And we need some male allies. The men's soccer team has been quiet.
Zip.
Doesn't benefit them.
They haven't sent one tweet. They haven't said anything.
No.
So, of course, like, they're just going to be like, well, whatever. Like, if they would speak up, it would be so helpful. But of course not.
No, they'll only speak up if they find that they're only going to speak up if they can then like
benefit
brand themselves.
Yeah, it's for their branding, right?
It's like branding themselves, you know.
Or if they make a sexist comment and gotta retract, and PR's like, support women's soccer.
Oh, by the way.
Or if Rolando needs to find
Amen.
another surrogate mother, it's like, it's only to benefit, themselves. So I don't know what they're going to do with this ruling, but they're going to, obviously they're going to appeal. I don't know how much this has set them back, but I'm just hoping it's not a trend in, what they're trying to do with women's sports altogether. It's just disheartening. I couldn't find like one good story.
It's bullshit. Even the reasoning behind it is bullshit.
I know, right?
Said, like, the only reason they made all that extra money is because they had to hustle like hell on the side to do it and get the sponsorships. It wasn't like it was just given to them.
Yeah, and then they're penalized because they were successful.
Yeah.
Wow. Why even try?
Suck a dick.
Being a
Cut that out.
woman
Sorry. Cut that
is fun.
Oh, man. I'm not going to cut out suck a dick because it is seriously
Do it.
Sad.
Absolutely sad. Well, that's our show.
Here's one awesome interview: murder hornets and women are
a sad sandwich. We had a sad sandwich. We were like over it, then had great time with Jasmine, and then over it again.
Girls, you know what?
Oh,
we can have a time when we're over it.
What are you trying to say?
Just trying to wrap this show. Fuck it up. Okay, we're gonna wrap. So, let's see. How do we want to wrap things up?
That we're definitely sweaty.
I'm for sure sweaty. You can't see it, thank God.
Okay.
I can feel it though.
Okay. Put on our song. We're out. We're out. Okay.
That was a great show.
You know what? Thanks for listening.
Stay inside. Wear a mask if you go outside.
Wash your hands.
Don't touch your face.
Wash your hands. Wash your asses.
Yeah. It's not just about
first,
you.
Then asses.
Yes.
Your ass, yeah.
Well,
maybe your ass.
Yeah.
Hands, ass, hands.
Ass. Just wash. Okay.
Jump in the fucking shower. Just get it over with, all of
it. Make sure you subscribe and review.
Wash your ass.
We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the platforms, okay? DM us on social. We're on Twitter and Instagram at The Hoops Talking. And you know what, Karen, how do we want to keep it? Sweat.